Welcome to another weekly featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact and your host, James Moffat, where he will gracefully take our featured guest on a personal and business journey and stories that will inspire, educate, and engage you.
Hello, and welcome to another featured business. I was going to say Friday featured business, but it's actually Saturday today. So Saturday, 10th of June, and we've got a special event. It's a panel discussion with our 4 experts to talk about dreams. So various different types of dreams. So I'm not going to try and preempt this by telling you what they do. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So let's start with Pamela. All right, let's go with you first. So Pamela, introduce who you are and kind of what you do, what's your speciality, and then pass on to the next expert.
Okay, sure. My name is Pamela Cummins, and my expertise in dreams is really more spiritual dreams, dreams of the deceased, precognitive dreams, those kinds of dreams. I love to teach people how to understand their dream meanings, but the really important thing is, how do you use the wisdom of your dream and your daytime to help your personal and spiritual growth? So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And let's go alphabetically. So first name. So I'm going to go with Sheila.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sheila Balgobin, and I'm known as the Dream Decipherer. And that is what I do. I work with people and their dreams and help them to discover what I call the gold in the gobbledygook of what appears to be nonsense, but is actually great wisdom. I formally teach a course to help people learn how to interpret their dreams and how to extract the information that they contain and use it, as Pamela stated. There's so much wisdom in our dreams, and we're letting a lot of stuff slip by us because we don't pay attention. So that's who I am and what I do. And then let's see, where I get going backwards in the alphabet. So I'll pass it on to Shai.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Shai. I am a mystic, an artist, and a crystal intuitive. And I'm the creative director of Quantum Gems. And how I factor into all of this is I help use gems and crystals to help for us to sleep better and bring our dreams to reality. It also helps with adulting as well. Take the edge off.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Robert Waggoner. I'm the author of 2 books on lucid dreaming. Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self, and Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple. They've been translated into 8 languages, and I've gone around the world talking about lucid dreaming, which is when you become aware within a dream that you're dreaming. And the beautiful thing about it is when you see like a deceased dream figure, you can ask it questions within a lucid dream and determine if it's a symbol of your mind, just a projection of your grief or your whatever, or is it something else beyond that by listening to the response? So I use lucid dreaming sometimes to explore the dream world, but also I have a great love for dreaming in all of its manifestations, including precognitive dreams and others.
Wow. So we have 4 great experts here. So, or I could listen to all night long individually, let alone collectively. So I think this is going to be quite magical. So, I mean, I have my own questions, and I put this together because I have a fascination with dreams. I mean, I've dreamt as a kid lots of vivid dreams, and I don't know if I had any lucid dreams, or maybe I would like to, and I'd like to learn how to do that. But I mean, dreams just fascinate me, and I always want to know kind of the meaning behind the dream. And bearing in mind, and I know, Robert, we spoke about this earlier, we spend half of our life actually in bed dreaming. So isn't it important that we actually try to discover what they actually mean? So, and like, as I said, particularly on the spirituality side, I believe that there's lots of messages come through in dreams. We just don't realize that. We don't understand that. And we don't know how to tap into it to actually read the message. So let's make a start, right? I have some questions here. Feel free, because I know it's the first time all four of you have been together. And this should be quite exciting. So I'm going to start off with just a random question, but I think it alludes to actually what Robert, you said. So I'm just going to read out the question here. So just excuse me. It said, can our deceased loved ones visit us in our dreams? So maybe since Robert, you mentioned that, I'll start with you, and then we'll kind of pass that around and see if the others can actually add to that.
Yeah, this issue of visitation dreams or dreams of the deceased is something that is kind of an age-old issue. And also the question, is it the deceased or is it just a symbol, a projection of the mind? These are all wonderful questions. What I suggest for people who are lucid dreamers, because sometimes we become consciously aware when we see a deceased dream figure, we'll go, wait a second, that person passed away 10 years ago. How can this be? And then you realize, oh, I'm dreaming. And at that moment, you can decide to ask questions and then determine, is this a dream symbol, just a projection of my mind who I brought into the dream, or is this a visitor, someone possibly in the after-death state or in a spiritual condition? And so I'll tell you how this impacted me recently. Here in the last couple of years, the very first night of dreaming on January 1st, 2022, my mother-in-law appears in my dreams. And I immediately begin laughing because Nona passed away 10 years ago. And so I become lucidly aware. And I walk up to her and ask, does she have something to tell me? And she says, I want you to know September will be very important. And I told her, well, if you think it's important, it's going to be important. And she goes, no, I want you to realize that September is going to be very important. And so I woke up and I thought, why would my deceased mother-in-law come after 10 years to give me that? And that's when I realized, oh, she's telling me that my mom is going to pass away. And as it turned out, my mom passed away the very first weekend of September of 2022. Wow. And the weekend before, my wife and I went to visit my mom just because I had this knowing that she was going to pass. So that's part of the beauty of dreaming. I mean, this could have occurred in a regular dream, but being lucidly aware just gave it poignancy.
Right, excellent. So, Pamela, this was actually your question. So, was there a reason behind that?
Well, this is actually a question that people come to my website and my blogs. This is my most popular blogs, is about deceased loved ones, and it's something I'm fascinated with, and I hear it all the time from my clients. So I figured people would be fascinated. And if it's okay, I would like to tell 3 ways that you can tell if it is an actual visitation. And the first way is, if it's an actual visitation, is it feels like a visit. You're just kind of hanging out with them. You're talking, or you might not be talking. It could be done telepathically. That happens a lot because in the spirit world, you don't need words. It could be a feeling, just it could be a hug. All right. But it feels like you're actually spending time with them. And it's usually a feeling of love and happiness. And there might be some sadness because they're no longer with us. All right. Then there's what I call issue dreams of the deceased. And that you could actually be fighting with them or have a memory of them, or there's all kinds of symbols in it. And that is something, because obviously when someone passes, and I mean, I can communicate with those who have passed, but that doesn't mean I don't miss them in the physical. So obviously we all miss our deceased loved ones in the physical, and we all have issues and we need to grieve through them. Then the third one is actually a combination of both, where it is a visitation, but it also can be an issue dream. For example, if you're dreaming about, fighting with a loved one who passed away, and it's really upsetting you, they might actually, it's like you're sending out a beacon and they're like, oh, wait a minute, she's really upset or he's really upset. Let me come and comfort them. All right. And then there's a visitation, or it's the opposite way. They visit you and they go, and then it triggers, an issue that comes up. And I know in my own personal life, one of the things that I have, what Robert was talking about, it, I have it differently. Sometimes it's symbolic, or I just know before someone passes. And it's sad, but honestly, it's also a gift because I can make any amends with them. I can spend time with that. I had it happen with my mom and 2 of my cats. So dreaming of our deceased loved ones are very powerful. And it also tells us that the earth is not it. Life goes on. So I'll let I could go on and on about this, so I'll zip it and let somebody else talk.
Shai, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I come from indigenous and African American roots, and that is ancestral visitation is something that is extremely common in my culture. Usually, if something is going to happen in a family line, the clairvoyant will kind of get, like Pamela was saying, they'll kind of get, some kind of dream or, some type of preparation beforehand so they can just help to prepare the family. I'm always appreciative when I receive visitation from my ancestors and just any other lineage beings, because, we're from different systems as well, not just here on Earth. Being able to being reached out to via my dreams, it always feels like very much a preparation, very much, okay, go ahead and take care of this now. And it just kind of softens the blow. So that's definitely one of the reasons why I sleep with a lot of amethyst. It's a purple gem that helps to kind of filter my knowing so that I don't feel fear or apprehension when I have those experiences.
Excellent. Sheila?
Yeah, I mean, I could take a bit from everyone and say ditto and be done with it. But going back a bit to what Robert was saying about precognitive dreams, it was my own sister before she passed that visited me in a dream. I was in London, she was in New York, but she had been ill for some time, and I knew she was suffering. So, we had a conversation. It's like, okay, go home, go to the light. It's okay. Her sons are grown men, but it's like, don't worry, I'll keep track of them, And so it wasn't a surprise, again, that preparation that you're talking about. When a few days later, I get a call from New York saying that she had passed away. So dreams, and that's one of the things that I talk about, the different types of dreams and how they can indicate something or prepare us for something or just frame something for us so that we can focus on it. Dreams have the power of being able to shift things because it helps us to be more laser-like in our attention. And that's what, whether they come in as, my great-grandmother was teaching me about plants in her dreams, and she said I was the rudest child on earth. Now, I've never met my great-grandmother. But, she had her opinions, and she's a good teacher, but yeah, I mean, we did butt heads from time to time. So, visitations or from deceased loved ones or about to be deceased loved ones, I think is more common than people may want to admit, actually.
I agree.
Yes. Mm.
But would you say that, you said, Sheila, you said that your sister came to you in a dream. Did she know that? Or was that her?
Well, we were able to communicate with each other that way anyway. So it wasn't unusual, She would call me and say, you were walking around in the house last night. It's like, okay. I wasn't aware that I was doing it, but I must have been. So, we always had that capability of being able to communicate kind of telepathically, despite, and if she was 13 years older than I, she was almost like a second mother for me. But we were always very close, and I was the fifth in the line of women that had this dream capability to use in various ways. So it stands to reason that people that we have a strong connection to, whether it be a mother-in-law or a cat or an aunt, some other ancestor or a spirit guide of some kind, that that communication is just much easier somehow, because there's already that connection, that link there.
Okay, I'm just going to ask some kind of random questions, and I mean, it's to all of you. So, I mean, you can just jump in and say, but we can pass it around if others have got something to add to that. So if you wanted to speak to someone in a dream, like say it was a deceased person, a relative or something, or an old friend or something, do you have to ask permission to speak to them, or can you just jump in and start trying to communicate? I mean, how does it work?
I'd like to answer that, because that reminds me of a solution dream, where before you go to bed, you can pray about it, meditate on it, write a letter, whatever works best for you to get an answer in your dream. Okay. Many famous people got, created medicine and inventions because of things in their dream. And with a deceased loved one, you can just ask, please come into my dream. I think it's proper etiquette to ask. You know how like you feel like somebody just drops by your house, and especially if you're in your nightgown, you wish that they had called. Well, I think it's the same thing about when you ask someone. I'm sorry, crack myself up. I think it's the same thing when you ask someone to come and visit in your dream, and it doesn't necessarily mean somebody deceased. It can mean somebody who is living, like, hey, I haven't thought of you. And, sometimes they come and visit you, but obviously we have the right to not let them in our dream, just like we don't have to open up the door to someone. So that's my take on it.
I mean, it's interesting you say that, because it reminds me, because one of the things that I do in terms of kind of spiritual teaching is to teach people Reiki. And one of the important things when I teach people is to say to you, always ask permission. Always. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's a newborn baby or it's somebody who is, as in the throes of Alzheimer's. Always ask permission. Their higher self will always respond, and either they will say verbally or indicate that they, draw closer, that yes, it's okay, or they turn their back or go away or something to indicate to get take a hike. So I think, there's something about everyone having to have that free will to come or not come, to be invited or to not invite. I mean, that's in terms of my teaching, I think it, like you say, it's just polite.
Right.
But everybody, have to be different.
I mean, and when you're inviting someone, just as if you're, inviting someone over your home, you want to have something for them to imbibe into, something for them. Anytime that I find that I'm wanting to call, a lot of the time it's my older brother. He passed when I was younger. I find things that are important to him, and, I put it around his picture, and, I try to make a connection so that he'll want to come. I don't necessarily want, for any type of spirit, but just my ancestral spirits to come and contact me and not have any way to be comfortable, or not even just be enticed to come. Because I'm sure that I'm not the only one asking. So I'm wanting to make sure that there's a fair exchange as well of that energy, and that I'm not just taking because I a younger spiritual adept, I didn't realize that. I mean, my brother died when I was really young. So I feel like I was calling on him, a lot. And I never really had anything to offer until I came into the understanding that I should. So that's also a good tip.
But when you're reaching out, Robert, I'll come to you. When you're reaching out, is it like trying to contact someone? I mean, just using it in a pictorial way. You're trying to call someone on the phone and they're not answering the phone. So is it kind of like that? Do they have to be open to want to receive the message that you're trying to connect, or they would get the message anyway and they choose to connect or not?
No, that's an interesting question.
Yeah. In my personal experience, because I can only really speak from my personal experience to things that I know for sure that have actually happened. I like to make sure that I leave it open. And, if they want to, then that's fine. But like I said, that's why I entice, I make sure that I burn some ancestor money for my brother. I have certain things that I just kind of keep around. So if he wants to, he's able to. But, I don't want for it to ever be a situation where it's a demand, because that's a separate type of energy that also brings its own ramifications. So I've always been very calm when asking. And sometimes I've asked and, no one said anything, or I didn't see a sign, or I didn't feel like it was the time to connect with that person. And I had to realize sometimes in my own selfishness that I have to be patient. And, just like when you're calling someone on the phone, you may leave them a message, but they may not be able to get back to you that day. They might be able to. So I always leave the chance open and the opportunity open. So I don't feel very demanding, because the energy that reverberates off of that, I'm not interested in.
They could be off playing golf, you see.
Right? Doing their favorite thing in the astral realm. And I would hate to take them away from that for, my own, my humanly needs, which, I may just be being selfish at that moment.
Yeah. Robert, you had something.
Yeah, so I agree. Asking permission is always a good idea, or framing the request and if this is possible. Also, I think it helps to think about the deceased relative who connects somehow to the issue. Like once upon a time, I had a family member tell me as we argued over the phone that they were never going to speak to me again, and then they hung up the phone. And 2 weeks later, they still hadn't talked to me. And so that night, I asked my grandmother, who always seemed very interested in the family, that if she had an interest, could she somehow intervene in the dream state and somehow resolve this? Not that she would resolve the issue, that she would just resolve the lack of communication. And then that next day, this family member finally called me for the first time in 2 weeks. So what I want to get to is, if you have a deceased family member who's interested in family dynamics, those are the ones I'd ask permission of. If you have another family member who's interested in family finances or fortune, then I'd go a different route there.
Right. So it should be ethical things. I mean, you're not going to ask them like, could you tell me the lottery numbers and stuff like that?
Yeah. Or the best way to extract money from who knows or what,
But I mean, when you do that, I guess you're in the realms of like pure authenticity and trust. It's not going to be anything devious and untoward, or could it be?
Well, I think energetically, you're putting yourself at risk by focusing on negative energy, because you're only going to draw more of it to you. Whatever energy you're emitting is what you get back, reflected at you. And that's, whether you're talking on the psychological level or at a physical level, it's like, what do they say? For every, force, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So yeah, you don't want to put that energy out there and start messing around with things that you can get out from under your control and create real havoc. So no, I think it's And I find that in terms of dreams, it's what you're, Pamela, you mentioned talk about kind of like programming yourself, but before going to sleep. And Robert, you've touched upon that as well with lucid dreaming. I mean, you can kind of set the scene, if you will, and say, I choose to dream about this, or and remember everything that inspires during the dream. But again, I think it also implies a certain kind of state, a receptive state, not an aggressive state, because that is going to impact not only what you dream, but the beings that may appear to you as a result, because of the energy that you're putting out and intention you're putting out there. So intention, I think, has a lot to play with regard to what people actually end up with.
Excellent. Actually, as you're talking, I'm making notes because I'm thinking of other questions now, right? But I want to just jump to Robert there, although I want everyone obviously to join in. You mentioned about lucid dreams. Now, when I think of that and how you described it, I'm thinking of the movie with DiCaprio. It was called Inception Point, and they went in a dream within a dream, and they went different layers within the dream, and they're kind of waking up in the dream and doing different tasks and activities and things, and then had to then get back out of the dreams. But if they died within a layer of the dream, they couldn't then escape. So how realistic was that as a movie to something that could be true?
So lucid dreaming, of course, has been scientifically validated since 1980 through the work of Stephen LaBerge at Stanford and Keith Hearn at University of Hull in England. So lucid dreaming occurs. A lot of people lucid dream a fair amount. The one thing, though, is the Hollywood treatment of lucid dreaming is a little bit different. For example, if in a lucid dream someone was shooting a gun at me, I would know it was a dream gun with a dream bullet, and I had a dream body, and so there's not really any reason to be concerned. But in the movie, of course, they're running all over the place, having car chases and all that. So that's the Hollywood aspect of it. But the core issue of whether in lucid dreams you can find out information unknown to you, I think that's a fundamentally important issue, because in lucid dreams you can explore that and in some ways investigate the knowing of the unconscious mind.
Yeah, excellent. I'm going to come back to you shortly, because you do have a technique on how to wake yourself up into a lucid dream. But before we get there, I was always under the impression, like growing up as a kid, and people said, like, when you've having a dream or a nightmare and you're being chased, but you can't actually get away. I mean, you're like running in quicksand or something, or you have a dream that you're falling, and before you hit the ground, you wake up. So would you ever hit the ground and then not wake up, or is that just a myth? Any one of you? Pamela. Yeah. Okay,
well, not so much. Like, there's a theory, and like if you die in a dream, if you're dreaming and you die in a dream, you actually die. And I can tell you that's not true. I'm not about the falling, but I've had 2 dreams where I've been shot in the head. And in one of the dreams, I actually died, and I was like a ghost, and the person who killed me, they got killed, and we were talking. Okay, and I'm living proof that you can get shot in the head and be killed and not die in a dream.
All right, that's good to know, because I mean, not that I have these dreams now, but I when I was a kid, I had dreams that I was falling, and then you'd wake up suddenly, like in a cold sweat, and then think, "Phew, thank goodness for that. It was a dream," but I never actually hit the ground. Now, but is there a message within that dream to say, right, I need to change what I'm doing, or would that have been a dream with a message, or is that just a random kind of weird dream?
Well, I mean, it depends on a lot of things. I mean, even and this is what I mean by saying that kind of categories of dreams, that certain kinds of dreams tend to fall in certain categories. You can look at I look at it from a psychological theory, because I'm a trained psychotherapist, and that each symbol for each dreamer is going to be different, number one. So if you dream about falling, what it means for you is going to be different from what it means for Pamela or Shai or Robert, or even Yen-Mi. Who's, and please feel free to chime in. There's a question or anything you have.
I do have a question. I'll ask after you finish. Yeah.
But I think that it's you can carry things too far by taking things too literally. It's because dreams work in metaphors. It's as if. So it's as if you are dying, as if you're hitting the ground. I had a dream where I saw I was going to die in the dream, because the plane that I was in started to nosedive towards the sea. And I woke up, and during the dream, very lucid, it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to die now. That was my thought. Like, all right, I'm going to die. Okay. But I woke up actually before the plane actually hit the water. And it took me a while to understand what that dream was about. But when I met the person that I got involved with, I understood immediately what the dream was telling me. But so it's the kind of thing that it depends on context. It always depends on context. What is going on in your life? And you have to, I believe, look at a dream in the whole context of your life, not only what's happening in the dream, but what's happening in your waking life as well, to be able to find those connections and get that light bulb moment, like, oh, that's what that's about.
So would you say, sorry, Yen, I was just going to ask this. So would you say it could be kind of the end of a chapter or the end of something and the beginning of something new? So it could be like, you haven't really like fallen and hit the ground, but the falling is like a metaphor for like you're moving on, get rid of that chapter in your life. Now, either it's a partner or it's a job or something, and then it's time to move on to something new.
Yes.
Or would you say it's very personal? It could be anything.
Mm-hmm. Actually, both times I got shot in the head was, I was going into a new spiritual chapter into my life. So it was kind of like one part of my life was, it's like the death card in tarot. It doesn't mean you're going to die. It means you're changing into something new, kind of like, from a worm to not a worm, but, to a butterfly. It's transformation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Yen, you had something?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think at the moment I got two questions. One is related to the disease. Family members, for example, I lost my parents when I was 9. So in Taiwan, a lot of people believe that the deceased family members will come visit their close ones the 7 days after their passing. So my parents actually visit me in my dream on the 7th day of their pass. And then we talk before they departed. Same as my grandma when I was age 30. And I just wondering, because I studied psychology for my master, and then just wondering whether there's actually the subconsciousness link with the traditional belief, or potentially it could be, we're, it could be the actual, I don't know, spiritual, I don't know. I'm just curious about that, because and then not just that, in the past 20, 30 years, my parents or my grandma would visit me in a dream, and then we will have a conversation. And I know I'm having a dream, but I know I'm talking to them. And then they will tell me some encouraging words like, study hard and then be a good person, etc. So that's That's my first question. I don't know whether someone would like to answer that, or should I ask them the second question?
Well, look, I mean, I'd like to chime in with a little story of my own that kind of speaks to what you're talking about, Yin-Mi. When my first husband passed away, there were many, many moments where I could feel his presence. I mean, as an empath, I could actually feel his energy. And we would have long conversations, whole conversations. I mean, it was just like these epic conversations and whatnot. But what I noticed was I couldn't wake up. I was, like sleep paralysis. We have sleep paralysis to keep us from falling out of bed and whatnot during our, when we dream. But this was different. I was aware that it was like, you can't wake up. You need to stay in this state in order to be able to have this communication. It was really quite strange. That to me indicated that there was something, an energy, if you will, or force other than myself that was there. Didn't hurt me, wasn't there to harm me. I felt safe, I felt comfortable. But there was definitely another presence. And I mean, that to me, that the best way of understanding whether it's real or not. In the dream state, psychologically, it's real. There is no, it's imaginary. It's really happening. It's really real. And we have to respect that. The dream state is just as real in its own way as the waking state. So I would say to you, if you, as long as it engendered positive feelings in you and felt encouragement, peace, joy, I mean, being able to communicate with them, then it's like, take the blessing. I would say just take the blessing and accept that they're coming to give you that support, that we're still here, we still love you, and we're still, standing behind you. I mean, that's my take on it. I mean, that, other people may feel differently.
I think Robert had something. Do you have?
Well, I was going to agree with Sheila, but also say that there's been a number of examples of deceased visitation dreams providing the dreamer unknown information that later when they wake up, they can verify. In fact, there's even a court case that was overturned by evidence provided by a dream figure to one of the family members, and that person learned in the dream that there was a later copy of the will. And so with some friends and some other witnesses, he goes to the place, and it was in the family Bible held by one of the people, and they find that it's right there in the family Bible where it was shown in the dream, and it was the newest copy of the will that gave the land partitioned equally to all the family members and not just the eldest son. And so there's a court case that overturned the previous ruling by virtue of dream evidence that occurred in a dream. So, and in the world of lucid dreaming, there's tons of lucid dreams where the deceased passed on information that the person had no idea if it was valid. They woke up and then they discovered that, oh yeah, that information is valid. Because they went to talk to somebody. So, but it is a fascinating question. It's interesting, like Taiwan has this certain belief system, and you're right. When the belief system occurs, you wonder, oh, is that just my subconscious cultural programming, or is there something really to this? But the nice thing about lucid dreaming, you can ask for evidence outside of your knowing, and then wake and confirm it or not.
Right. Okay. Just before your second question.
Yep.
I need to ask something. So when you're reaching out and you get messages from a deceased person, a relative, a friend, or whatever, is there a certain time before? Because now we're talking like spirituality and your soul. When you move on to either, if you believe in this, to reincarnation or to another life, right? Can you still communicate, or has that person now moved on to their next adventure and you can't connect with them anymore?
I think it varies.
Yeah.
I think everybody has different soul contracts. So, everyone is on their own little timeline. Some people die and don't necessarily get to be ancestors that will come back and, visit you in your dreams because of, their own schedule of things that they have going on spiritually. So we've all signed, different spiritual contracts, and, we all have our roles to play. And sometimes I do know for sure that, you'll be able to reconnect with family members and spirits and energies that you missed and things that you genuinely do need. But we all still are on our own individual path. So just because you move up doesn't necessarily mean that person is now just going to be there just to greet you. Sometimes we can become very egocentric in the way that we think about things, even though, we're the center of our experience. But, everyone, every spirit does have their own individual things going on. So it definitely depends.
You can see the fascination with dreams then. I mean, for everybody, I think everybody should have a curiosity about it, because you can go off on a tangent in all sorts of directions, right? But anyway, to your second question.
Okay, right. So my second question is, when I was in primary school, I had 1 or 2 weeks, I don't remember roughly, but anyway, it's about me being able to fly and fight the dragon, and I can control the dream to continue, like from day 1 to day 5. I can control the next day. I don't know whether I can control, but okay, basically the dream can continue the next day for 5-6 days. But I know that at the time, I could just feel that I can control that. Okay, today I'm gonna have that dream continue for another, I don't know, week, and it did happen. And then, yeah. So I was quite curious about dreams when I was in primary school, secondary school. So I read all sorts of books about dreams. Freud is Freud. Anyway, something to do with psychology and dreams. So I haven't found much information about being able to do that and what's the reason or what's behind it. I haven't found much information. Maybe you or some of you or all of you have some information about that. I'm just curious.
Oh, we're right back in the land of lucid dreams.
Yeah, that's a question for Robert.
So having a series of dreams that goes on night after night, and you continue where you left off before, I think that's something commonly reported. It's interesting that the author Robert Louis Stevenson, he said the book Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was a series of dreams that just kept going on and on and on, and he would write it down, and then he basically had a novel, but because of that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde series of dreams. You can, if you're lucidly aware, you can ask to revisit a dream. And sometimes it's interesting here in the current world, some lucid dreamers, if they want to replay the lucid dream they're currently in, they'll put out their hand and they'll start moving the dream back to an earlier spot, and then they'll start it up again and put a different branch on it instead of what they had just lived a few minutes ago. So it's interesting how time is psychological, it seems, in the dream state. Here in the waking world, it seems kind of clock oriented, but in the dream state, it's whatever you want it to be.
Absolutely. Time has no meaning in terms of dreams in that sense.
Until the alarm goes off.
What happened 10 years ago is just as relevant as if it happened 5 minutes ago. Or things that, I was talking about precognitive dreams. I had dreams that ended up saving me from 9/11. But more than a year before the event. So, time is really if you look at it in the terms of spirituality, there's no such thing. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. If you're standing in a circle, it depends on which direction you're looking for it to be what we would call past or future or even present. So it just depends on your perspective, your point of view.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps or makes sense to you, but that's been my experience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Sheila, we'll come back to you because you touched on something there about having dreams that were kind of premonitions of what was going to happen, and it's kind of warnings. But we'll come to that in a minute. Pamela, you mentioned earlier about animals, actually, right? Can you connect with an animal in a dream?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I Midnight let me know when she was going to die. Merlin let me know when they were going to die. I've had, well, Sheila, I remember telling, here's a funny dream, because I miss Merlin so much. I wanted Merlin I would be like, Merlin, come back, talking about invitation. Please come in. You can come and visit me every night. I miss you, right? And so I had a dream about Merlin, and I said to Merlin, I said, oh, come here. I'm so happy to see you. And he looked at me and he's like, I'm not here for you. I'm here for Rhiannon, the black cat that came up. And he went over to Rhiannon and started talking to them. But yes, absolutely. Animals, because they're like our children, and they might not talk like telepathically like Merlin did, but they will do it in, through body language or telepathically, or you might hear the way they meow, or, they woof, but absolutely, they have souls. I know people say animals don't have souls, but
oh, that's not true.
They have
Who says
souls.
that?
Frogs have souls. Reptiles, even bugs have souls. They all have souls. So yes, we can definitely communicate with them in our dreams.
Yeah. Just a side question. When you talk about animal souls and human souls, will a human always be a human soul and an animal always an animal soul?
In my personal opinion, okay, and in my life experience, I think we can be both. Okay. I remember Psychic saying how my cat Merlin wanted to come back as a human and was really mad that he had to come back as a cat. But, but personally, I have a connection, and it is kind of funny, but I have a connection like with cats. Cats on the street will just come up to me. And I think it's more because they kind of see, like, they even called me Catwoman when I was a kid. Okay. I think it's just, and you can look at some people and see like, wow, he looks like a dog. She looks like a bird. I believe that, yes, I think who says the soul can go into any container is the way I look at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I've had dreams. Yeah. I mean, recently in the last year, I had a dream about a blue dolphin. I think I mentioned it to Robert. So I went to bed, and I normally don't ever get up in the night to go to the toilet. I normally make sure I go before I go to bed. But I mean, particularly when I remember when I was a kid, I used to have dreams. I would go to the toilet and I'd wet the bed. And as I was peeing, I'd wake up and think, oh no, I was on the toilet in my dream. But now I peed a bit. But I mean, I dreamt about this blue dolphin, and it kept reminding me on a message. It said, things are not what they appear. But it repeated it hundreds of times, right? And then, funny enough, I needed to get up to go to the toilet, which was odd. And then I went to the toilet, went back to bed. I went straight back into the same dream. And then it was repeating and repeating and repeating until I kept repeating it back so I wouldn't forget. And then in the morning, I didn't forget, which normally I do forget dreams. And yeah, so there was a message within that dream, and a blue dolphin, because I have a fixation with dolphins being like these like supernatural kind of creatures, right? So, and blue in particular, like a magical one. So have you heard of things like that before? Would you think there was a significance there? Would you just think, well, everybody has these dreams, or just kind of some thoughts on that? Anyone?
Well, I know there's a series of books that I think they're grandmother spider stories, I think they're called. But there's stories about Native American women and the kind of like spirit guides and whatnot, and in these teachings, spiritual teachings, there may be a totem animal. And that could be anything. For me, it's a white wolf. For somebody else, and an eagle, as it happens, I have two. But if for you, it could be that spirit guide, that psychopomp, as Jung would call it, is a blue dolphin, which is, a fantastical creature, but has some wisdom to share. So I mean, it's getting hung up on the appearance of things or the labels of things. You miss the message. It's like the person, I think there's Chinese saying about you pointing at the moon and you're looking at the finger instead of the moon. So you're missing the point. Mm-hmm. And you're misdirecting your attention. So it's again, I think it's you have to suspend belief to a certain extent, and accept that this message comes in this particular form, delivered by in this particular way. But the message is not most important. Now, you could sit around and kind of analyze, well, what do blue dolphins represent for me? You've already said that it's a magical creature for you. So it's a magical creature that has some wisdom for you. And just, it's like, why lick a gift horse in the mouth in the end? Accept the gift. And, even if it comes in packaging, that's a little bit weird, but it's okay. Yeah. It's no less valid for that.
Okay, I'm going to throw some others at you. And I think I know what it means anyway, because it was kind of a build up to that. And yeah, I mean, I was looking at things that, very controversial. And I mean, it was just reassuring to me, like things are not like what they appear. So you've got to look into it like, is it really what something appears to be, but it's actually not. But anyway, I just want to talk about dream catchers. Do you know, like, when I mean, there was a funny story. I went to visit my sister in New York, and then she took us out to Philadelphia to the Amish people, and then we stayed in one of her friends' like farmhouses, and in every bedroom there was. I went with I was 17, I think, at the time. I went with my mum, my younger brother, my elder sister who lived in New York, and her son, and I think it was, and anyway, it was a family thing. It was part of the family. And then we all slept in different bedrooms, and we never knew anything about dream catchers. We didn't even know what one was. But anyway, in the morning, I was going down for breakfast, and I could hear my sister talking to my mum about the dream they had last night. And as I was going down the stairs, I think, well, that was my dream. And as they were talking about the dream and sharing the same story with each other, I was thinking, they're telling my story. So I got downstairs and I carried on the story. I said, yeah. And then we thought, like, when my brother comes down, we'll ask him. And he said exactly the same. And then the lady, her friend in the house, said, oh, yeah, it's the dream catchers. I've got dream catchers in every bedroom with a native Indian dream catchers. So I just want to know kind of your thoughts on dream catchers, and are there different types? I heard that you should never buy one. You should always have one given, and it should be from native kind of background rather than someone's just made them in a shop. So yeah, Shai, I'm interested in what you think.
Yeah, there's definitely a very strong lore when it comes to dream catchers. Just the actual weave itself and the circular part can be extremely different from culture to culture, and as well as the feathers that you use at the bottom. But the one thing that I really do love about dream catchers is that it's helpful for when you feel apprehensive. If you're the type of person who has nightmares a lot, especially when you're sleeping away from home, that's possibly why she had, the dream catchers were in a space where, guests would normally sleep. So they're very helpful when you're not in your traditional sleeping space, but when you are in your traditional sleeping space, it's just helpful for the deep sleep. And when it comes to shared dreaming experiences, that's one of the side effects, especially when you have a strong psychological and spiritual connection with a person. That's something that can definitely happen. It's definitely happened with me and my daughters. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, they have dream catchers in their room. As far as being gifted versus purchasing, it all depends on your own personal culture and on the culture from where you're getting the dream catcher from. But specifically for mine, we make our own and we teach the children to make them. So it's like a little arts and crafts thing. And you just kind of do the weave with you're intentionally led to do the weave at the top, and whatever feathers resonate with you, you put on the bottom. So it's a very personal piece, which is why you shouldn't just allow anyone to do something like that for you if they are not Indigenous. Similarly to, crystals or anything that holds energy, you want to make sure you're getting these types of tools from reputable people and not just people who are appropriating things just, for money or, for any other reasons. Because a lot of the times, some people can be led by entities that are not in our best interest. And they can just give you things that could potentially cause chaos in your physical experience. So we don't want that.
So you think if you just went to a regular shop and someone was just selling them like the $1 shop or something, then keep away from those ones and get an Indigenous one?
Correct. I mean, similarly to the food we eat, there's levels, there's ranks, and you don't want to just eat any old thing because eventually that's going to cause an issue. Very similarly to your spiritual tools, specific to the dream catcher, you want to make sure that it was made with good intentions and that those intentions stay around it. Sometimes people give things because they may have created chaos in their own lives. So knowing how to cleanse physical things off when they're given to you is important. Sage is one of those things, but another one that I really like is black tourmaline. It's a very beautiful mineral that can be put around the house, and it's helpful for when people gift you things. You're not really sure what to do with it or what's going on, and helps to filter away that unknown energy.
Sorry, what crystal was that?
This is a black tourmaline. So it's also known as shoral. Not really sure.
It's not kryptonite.
No, it's not kryptonite. But you know what? It's one of those crystals that grows in the striations that kryptonite does. Clearly, kryptonite was a made-up mineral. But it was one of those things that it was a mineral that grew in sheets and it kind of comes as chunks. Those types of crystals are excellent at filters, and especially when it's in a dark color. Dark crystals are very, very helpful to filtering out unknown energy, especially when it comes to getting ready to go to sleep.
Okay.
And they're very grounding as well.
Very much so.
So you're very much into crystal work.
Very much, yes. I've been in love with crystals since I was a kid. And I just didn't know what that meant for other people because it was just always something that I was interested in, and it resonates with everyone apparently.
Okay. So I'm just curious on kind of what techniques people use. I just want to jump to Robert again and ask, you have a technique to help people get into lucid dreams. Now, something that you do that works. So can you just explain?
Right. So I taught myself a technique, or kind of created a technique back in 1975. And basically what I'd do is this. Each night before I'd go to sleep, for about 5 minutes, I would look at the palms of my hands. So I'm looking at the palms of my hands and tell myself repeatedly, softly in my head, tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. And on the third night of doing this, I'm walking through my high school hallway and suddenly, boom, my hands pop right in front of my face. And I go, oh my God, my hands, this is a dream. And so this is kind of like a conditioned response. You're making the sight of your hands result in you thinking this is a dream. And so that's how I've taught a lot of people how to become lucidly aware, just doing this practice before they go to sleep at night.
But it doesn't have to be your hands. It could be any object.
Yeah, exactly. You can make it any unusual object. Like tonight when I see X, I'll realize I'm dreaming. But the nice thing about your hands is that normally your hands are there with you. If you use something like, oh, tonight when I see a tornado, I'll realize I'm dreaming. it's a little bit of a different kind of stimulus response.
Okay. So Pamela, or Sheila or Shai, do you use any techniques, to help yourself get into dreams, or do you have dreams, or how do you stimulate that when you go to bed? Do you have any method, or it's just potluck that you have a dream that you remember, or?
Well, as far as remembering them, okay. I've always remembered them. But one of the things that I tell people is tell yourself, I will remember my dream, and then have something to record them with at the side of the bed. So it's like, it's preparation, just like you prepare, to get ready for work the next day, maybe have your outfit out and your lunch ready. It's the same thing with dreams. Tell yourself that you will remember your dream. But personally, sometimes I'm like, I just don't want to remember my dreams because I can remember them every day. Sometimes I need a break.
Yeah. So is it good to go to bed, like beside the bed, a notepad that you can, if you wake up in the night, you will quickly write that one down, or I'm going to forget, because I've had great dreams and then split second in the morning, I've woken up and completely forgotten everything. You're
not alone in that. It's statistically proven that 80 to 90% of a dream is forgotten within the first 5 minutes of waking up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true for everybody, even for people who dream regularly and remember their dreams generally. Which is why when I teach people how to work with their dreams, one of the things is that simple things that they can do to help them remember. And I use crystals as adjuncts as well. Some of Shai's crystals are part of the course to be able to teach people how to have better recall with their dreams. So that, and then as well as some physical exercise that are very brief, very, very simple exercises that build up a connection between the hemispheres of the brain, so that when the right brain floats up some fantastical dream, the left brain doesn't say, what the, no, dodgy dinner, cheap wine. It doesn't immediately dismiss it, but allows more coherence between the right and left hemispheres of the brain, so that they work better in tandem. Women have their callousum between the two halves of the brain is much thicker, possibly because we talk to babies, to children, and kind of, need to be more in that little bit of have more communication between the two halves of the brain. But it's something that people can develop. And those having a pad and pen by the bed with bullet points. You don't have to write War and Peace, just bullet points. It will look like a 5-year-old was writing while you're in your sleep, but it will be enough to jog your memory when you're fully awake. And there are simple things like that you can do that can encourage our recall and our memories with regard to dreams.
Do you think you should write the date down as well? Because maybe it was the date. If you're looking in numerology, I can't even say the word, with numbers, and maybe the numbers, the date was actually a significant number.
It could be. I always, when I have dreams or my clients have dreams, I always ask them for the date anyway. Mm-hmm. So, the dates could be significant, yes. Or it's just, if it's something that's occurred in the last couple of days, that somehow could be significant. And usually when things happen in a series, like Robert was talking about, a series in Yin, that, that dreams happen in a sequence, it's telling a story and will, give you in different episodes of the story, like a soap opera. It's giving you, different episodes. Yeah. So keeping track of when they were dreamt, having a date, it can actually be helpful, because it can also help you to pinpoint in the general context of your life what may be going on.
Yeah. Shai, anything to add to that?
I have a really good bedtime routine, and that's what's helpful. I notice when I'm off my routine, I don't really remember my dreams as much, or I'll when I wake up, I'll think like, oh, I guess I just didn't dream. But I do a lot of breath work before I go to bed. And then I literally put myself to bed like a baby. So it's bath time. I make sure that I read, no screens right before, just so that I can be in the most optimal position in order to not only just get healing and rest because I'm a mother, but just so that I can do what I need to do in the astral realm as well. Another one of the things, like I mentioned, amethyst. I'm in my office and I have, of course, now there's no amethyst sitting here, but amethyst is a purple quartz gem. And I have a huge piece of amethyst directly by my bedside. Amethyst, it is rich in manganese, and the manganese pulls on the iron in our body to help us stay asleep. And so that's epic for me because, like I said, I'm a mother and sometimes things will happen. There's dogs around the house that, I get distracted from sleep often. Aside from amethyst, I keep a lot of calcite in my sleeping area. So this is one of the calcites that I brought. You can notice that calcites are very chunky. They look very waxy because they are amplification tools. And when a honey calcite is used in your bedroom or in your sleeping quarters, it can really, really help with that calm that you need. For people who have night terrors and things, it can help with that confidence. Because I have one of my daughters, she doesn't really like to fall asleep because she feels like, oh, I might have a bad dream. So that yellow calcite helps with that, that apprehension as well. And just having a really good routine, I noticed that's when I have really the good dreams, or that's when I have all of my very vivid visitation.
Yeah. So I'm just going to ask to everybody, right? So I just want your opinion on this. So to have the optimal dream, right? Should you go to bed when you're not so tired? Should you go to bed when you're extremely tired? Should you drink or eat anything before? If so, a certain thing. Or you shouldn't eat before because that's going to have, my mom always said, don't eat cheese before you go to bed. It'll give you nightmares. Right. So is there kind of the optimal time? And also you mentioned about crystals beside the bed. Is there anything what would you say, maybe start with Robert, what would you say would be the optimal time and the best way that you could go to bed and have the best possible dream?
So some of the miscellaneous factors that I've seen help, on evenings when I would do yoga, I used to go to a Iyengar yoga class twice a week. I would notice those evenings I'd have incredible dreams. Also, I've noticed on dreams when I'm sleeping on brand new, or on new sheets, newly laundered sheets, so for some reason, I sleep better and the whole thing's better. So those would be two factors that I've noticed in my own life have helped improve my deeper dreaming and also more powerful dreaming.
Right, that's a good point, actually. Before I forget, because Pamela, I'll come to you next. Right, bed sheets or anything, should it be cotton, pure natural cotton, or would you say some other fabrics?
I go with the long staple cottons, like the Pima cottons or the Egyptian cottons.
Would that have a different effect? Because funny enough, I just had a guest yesterday that talks about sustainability, and she's got a startup that's doing cotton underwear, and she said like natural pure cotton with nothing added, no dyes, nothing added is the best thing for your body, but also cotton for your body in general. Pure cotton is the best thing. So. But anyway, Pamela, what would you do to prepare for the best night?
Okay, well, first of all, not to listen to the news before you go to bed. Not to watch a bunch of horror movies or, read anything scary even what is the SUV, criminal minds, those kind of things, those are going to give me personally nightmares. So to have something positive, personally, I like to read before I go to bed. I don't like to I can't be hungry because I can't sleep. Okay. But I don't want to be full. I don't like sleeping on a full stomach. And I don't think it's good for anybody's body. Okay. And also to have a clean bedroom. I know that sounds weird, but to have a clean sleeping area. I knew someone who actually painted his walls black. You know, he was like into heavy metal and stuff, and he had a lot of nightmares. So don't paint your walls black. Keep it clean. If you want to have really cool dreams, have oracle cards or like a tarot card with you. You know, those will have some amazing dreams. And I would say try to sleep at the same time every night. And personally, and I can't believe I'm going to say this live, I like to sleep without clothing. That's for me, like clothing is like too binding. I like to sleep the way that I was born, you know, and comfortably.
Well, I like that. I like to be, I mean, you don't want to wear things. I mean, you want to be free.
Exactly.
Obviously not walking around the house. Which actually just reminds me, thinking about that, which we'll come on into a minute. I just want to go around the others. Sleepwalking. I had a friend that used to go to bed and then next minute he's out walking down the corridor and I think, oh, hey, well, what's going on there? Right. And people said, leave him alone. Don't touch him. But I'll come on to that in a minute. So just Shy, just about your optimal bedtime routine, what would it be?
Well, my children have taught me that I did not have a good bedtime routine before I had them. So I realized, having all of the steps and meeting all of those steps was really, really helpful for me, even just falling and staying asleep. So tea is everything for me. Well, I drink tea daily, but I have a special tea that I normally drink in the evenings, right after everyone's nice and asleep. I'll sit and meditate with any of the crystals that may be calling me on my way to my bedroom. And then once I actually get to my bedroom, I start my breath work. I make sure I just kind of stretch just so I don't feel, I do kind of a little body scan just so I can be sure, that I don't get in bed feeling uncomfortable. And I like a dark room. I'm not one of those people that like to have lights on in the house at all, except for in my daughter's room. So just being able to have that consistency in my routine, amazing.
Yeah, should you have a window open, closed, doors open, closed?
I love a good crack window.
Any feng shui kind of setup for your room or anything like that? Does that have any effect?
I think it's largely individual. I mean, what works best for you is comfortable for you, because what works for one person is not going to necessarily work for another. Mm-hmm. So it's about finding a routine that works for you, whatever that may be, that will let you sleep well and encourage good dreaming. Or at least good sleep. I mean, and if you're not sleeping well, you're not dreaming well either. So it's important in terms of developing a sleep routine, whatever that may be, that's actually going to give you a sufficient amount of rest and make the space available for a dream to come in. I mean, I think that's the best way to encourage dreams as much as possible.
Sheila, what's your best way that you do it, getting to sleep?
Sorry, James. I'll need to interrupt because I'm a single parent, so I'm with my child. I'll have to go because she got ballet audition tomorrow somewhere near London, so I need to get her to bed.
Speaking of which,
there we go.
Sorry, but it's James. I'm gonna need to reply your question as I haven't done it, but so I'm really sorry. I'll have to go because tomorrow I need to get up early to drive her to somewhere near London. So it's really beneficial and inspiring for me. And it's lovely to meet you all, and nice to see you again, James. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'll have to go. So hopefully I'll see you in the near future.
You'll see me soon because you're a guest on my show coming up.
Yeah, I need to answer the question there because I got like so under by the example work as well as the interpreting work as well. So anyway, James, I'm gonna need to get that done tomorrow. And then thank you very much for all your insights, and I really appreciate that. So hopefully to see you in the near future, and then have a lovely weekend, everybody.
Right. You can catch up on the rest of the recording.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you
Okay,
so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So Sheila, you just finishing off. What would be your optimal way to go to bed?
For me, it's about making sure that I'm comfortable, that I'm dressed comfortably, that the room temperature isn't too warm, which here in Florida can be a real issue, either with air conditioning, and not eating too late. Because if your stomach is working to digest food, it's depriving your brain of oxygen to a certain extent, because most of the digestion is taking up that energy. And making sure that the quiet time, I have quiet time before I go to bed, whether that be reading or some quiet activity, to kind of, the body knows that it's winding down. It's like, oh, okay, she's getting ready to sleep. And so the body naturally starts to relax. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I have my crystals as well, that I will use that encourage peaceful sleep.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah, just a quick one on crystals, right? Are all crystals compatible with each other? So if you had multiple crystals in your room, or would some oppose the others?
I'm really, really sorry to interrupt. It's like I have an appointment at 4 and my driver, I had to call a cab to take me to my appointment so I won't be late. But I've really enjoyed this. I hope we can do this again and maybe develop something out of this. It's in some way, but it's been brilliant hearing all of this, and the questions that have been asked. So thank you. And I'm really sorry that I have to jump out like this, but it's been brilliant. And I hope we can, like I said, follow up in some way. So thank you, everyone. Take care, and we'll catch up soon. Bye-bye.
I'll send you an email and everything after to connect everybody.
Okay.
Okay, so we're back again. So, hi, we're just catching up where we left off. So, and unfortunately, we lost the connection with Zoom. So, Sheila had to drop off, and Robert, well, we all lost the connection, so we're all back on here. Robert, I don't know if you realize we're coming back on, so I'll catch up with him later, and then we'll just add him back into the kind of the wrapping up. So let's just carry on kind of where we left off. So we're just going to wrap this up now. So unless was there any burning questions or anything that you wanted to discuss before we kind of close this down?
I think we touched on a lot of different topics, but I think the overarching theme is, when we have like a strong psychological need for something, it normally comes to us, and ironically, more often than not, it can come to us in a dream, because I feel like maybe we're just more open, and there's less resistance when we're in the dream state. Yeah,
no, exactly. So, Pamela, just before we came back on, I asked, and you mentioned that I said, is it possible to ask requests like within a dream? Robert's here, actually. Let's just let him in.
Yay, Robert's back.
You got the email. There he is.
Right. Let's see. I'll edit all this out, right? Hi, Robert.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, so I forgot I made Sheila co-host, and then when she dropped off, she obviously disconnected us all. And I wasn't sure if when we were saying goodbye, everyone was going to come back in. So I'm glad you're here. So we'll just kind of wrap this up. But did you have any burning questions or anything that you wanted to say before we'll just go round and ask a bit more about each of your programs and your services that you offer, and then You can explain how you do that, and then we'll wrap it up. But was there anything that you had in mind, Robert? Anything extra?
Well,
question wise?
Yeah, there is one point. So one thing I think that's important about working with dreams is seeing how the dream connects to your feelings about what you're going through. Because, for example, a lot of times I'd have some kind of catastrophic type dream, and instead of waking up thinking that, oh, this means that something catastrophic is going to happen, I would kind of look at it symbolically and ask, what's going on in my personal life? What's going on in my emotional life? What's going on at work or with my spouse or whatever, to see if it connects to that before going to a much deeper possibility that it might actually be a premonition dream. So I always think it's important to check on that before you consider premonition type insights.
All right. Yeah, I just had a couple of questions just before we kind of wrap this up. So one question was, I alluded to it earlier. A friend of mine, when I was a kid at school, so we were at 15 or so at the time, and I was sleeping over at a friend's house, and he got out of bed and he started walking around. And I thought, what's going on here? He had his eyes closed, and he seemed to know where he was going. Well, I don't know if his eyes were actually closed, but he seemed to get out of bed, looked like a bit of a zombie. And he walked around a bit, and I was told, leave him alone. He'll come home, kind of thing, and go back to bed. So what is, I was told it was sleepwalking, but what is the difference between sleepwalking? I know you physically get out of bed, but how does that happen? And what is it?
That's not my area of expertise. So.
Right.
Yeah. In the science of sleep and dreaming, it's called a parasomnia. So an unusual sleep event. And some people have theorized that the body wants to start moving, but can't get the consciousness to wake up. And so the body just kind of takes over and begins walking around and doing whatever. So sometimes it's very purposeful. The person will be dreaming about getting ready for work, and their body is actually walking around the bedroom, throwing clothing to the floor and all that. So it definitely is an interesting state of being.
Okay. Just a quick one, maybe for Pamela. Should you go to bed with animals? My
animals,
not in a sexual way, but
I understand what you mean. In the wintertime, they come on. So I think it really depends upon you. They really very rarely affect my dreams. It might bother somebody else. And obviously, if they're putting you in an uncomfortable sleep position, that might not work. But what happened to me one time was my cat Merlin was really, something was wrong, and he wouldn't let me touch him. And I went to bed that night and I said, please, I need to know what's wrong with him. And he was sleeping on the bed, and I dreamed that there was something wrong with his spinal alignment. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I woke up and I actually said to him, I went and I touched lightly his hip, and I said, is your hippie hurting you? And he rubbed up against me, and I knew that was the problem. So in that case, it was a good thing. But it really depends upon the person, and how big the animal is. But personally, I've always slept with my animals.
Yeah, maybe one for Shai. If you had a dream catcher in the bedroom and the cat was sleeping on the bed, is it possible to share the dream with the cat?
I have dogs, so I have not experienced sleeping with a cat, but I do know, because there's dream catchers throughout my house, that when I am sleeping when the dog is on the bed and she's really deep sleep, I'm not sure if she does this when she's away from me, But that's when she has her very, very vivid dreams where she's almost barking at someone. Her paws are moving is almost as like, like as if she's running or playing and having fun. So it could just be, a comfortability thing, where she's just so comfortable with mom that, she can dream and sleep. But we've all even, whole family has, had family nap time and been in the same room and haven't had shared dream experiences. But I guess it all depends, because you just, Robert, as he was explaining the sleep paralysis thing, reminded me of something that happened to me when I was a younger child. And I was sleeping away at a friend's house, and I opened the door for someone that I wasn't supposed to open the door for. And it was we were safe and everything was, but I don't remember doing it, but I remember doing it. And I physically got up out of my sleep. And, so I wasn't sleeping in I wasn't in my comfort zone. And so I'm not sure if that lent itself to that experience, but it hadn't happened since. And it was just one of those things that was like, that was very odd. Like, I don't sleepwalk. What do you mean? I had no recollection of it until they told me. And I was like, oh, then I saw myself doing it. It was so crazy.
Yeah. No, we could talk all night about things. There was another thing about kind of out-of-body experience dreams, right? And dreams about flying. As a kid, I always dreamt I could fly, right? And I love these magical dreams. But if I have one a year now, I feel blessed. But I would just kind of levitate above the houses and go to school like flying, basically. Not flapping my arms or anything, just like off I go. And if I want to take someone with me in a dream, I'd have to hold their hand and I'd have to concentrate more so I could help them get off the ground. And then we'd just like fly above the houses and go to school or wherever we wanted to go. And they were wonderful dreams. So why do we have dreams that we can fly? Because a lot of people experience this, and particularly as a child, but less so, I guess, when they're older. Is there a reason for that?
I'm going to say that you're actually, in some cases, I can't scientifically prove this, but in a lot of those cases, you're actually kind of having an out-of-body experience / lucid dreaming. Because the one time when I'm not a big lucid dreamer, but one time I intentionally did it. And I was living at an apartment complex, and I was going to people's different apartments, flying in and going into their places. And one person actually saw me, and I'm like, oh, you can see me. And, I felt embarrassed and because I knew it was rude to do that. And I left. So I think part of it, I can't say every single flying dream is, and it might be a wish. We all wish. You look at a bird and we all wish we could fly. How neat would that be? Now, never taking an airplane again. I could fly up to Jersey and see my friend. I could fly to Switzerland and be in Bern. I love Bern when I visited. It'd be really neat.
Ah, you can come and see me then.
Yeah, exactly.
Shai, your thoughts on that? Is there not some indigenous kind of story behind that?
There's a notion about astral travel, whereas you can, set your dial and your intentions and go and visit people as they're sleeping, or go and visit their dreams and things like that. I know that there are some people who are more adept to that than others. And I find that with children, they have less of, that life experience that teaches them, oh no, that's not possible. And so that lightheartedness that all children have, it comes from, people are always pouring into children. And I think that if we still have that same, those same types of rituals and that same type of support, that, we could still have those experiences as adults. But, adulting sucks, to be put lightly. And, it definitely mars a lot of our psychological experiences. And, a lot of us don't say anything about it. But I think just culturally, too, we all deal in different ways. Like I used to dream that I used to be driving really, really, really fast, like so fast that I couldn't see stuff, but everything was really, this is very similar to flying, but I just wanted to go fast. And I don't, it could have just been something from a child, me wanting to grow up and, see more of the world. So it could just be an individual experience too.
And Robert?
Yeah, for me, those kind of flying dreams as a child, I wondered if they represented kind of a sense of freedom or developing freedom as a personality, as a person, being free of restraints, free of parents and rules and things. So I had a fair number of flying dreams as a child. But you're right. On occasion, there'd be some that were so exceptional, like Pamela was talking about, like flying through the neighborhood and actually going through people's houses as you flew through their house, where you really wondered, wow, was there something more going on in some of these? It's a really powerful experience and also a powerful symbol as well.
Okay, so I just want to touch on one more thing, and then we'll just go round and everybody explain kind of what they do, what their business is, how we can reach out, and kind of the services that you offer. So the last question is, which kind of came back to, I think, Robert, you mentioned earlier, like sometimes, I think it was Robert, sometimes you can get a message in a dream, like it. I'm just going to use Nikola Tesla as an example. So Tesla, I mean, he was basically a genius, and he helped with not just correct and direct current, but he also was the brains behind alternating current and many other things, the Tesla coil and whatever. Now, a lot of these came to him in a dream. So I don't really know the story behind that. So did he ask? I mean, would it be something that he would have asked, like, I want kind of these blueprints? And then he was then given them and he had a photographic memory and he could write them down? Or was he kind of chosen that in his dreams, he's going to be given the blueprints because he has that mathematical kind of brain that he could write it down? And if it was given to me in a dream, I would have some Mickey Mouse kind of drawing at the end of it, and it wouldn't work. Right. So I just want kind of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's something called, well, in my family, we call it downloads. Whereas, you could be anywhere. You could be at a traffic light, stop sign, at your child's graduation, or you could be asleep. And that if you are destined for something and you're supposed to be bringing something to the physical experience, there's no place that is going to, where those downloads are going to stop. So I think specifically for Tesla, he was always chosen for something. All of the information that I've seen and all the movies and stuff that I've seen about him, he was always that type of individual. He didn't just start off being that way. So when you're always that type of individual, you're constantly getting downloads that make your physical experience bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you are chosen for something like, life-changing and, world-changing as what Nikola Tesla was, I think that you could be getting images and downloads on a regular basis. And yeah, when you retell the story, you got to kind of give some context. Yeah, it was in a dream, it was here or there, but I'm almost certain that he's getting downloads every moment that he has to think. And that's one of the things, people who are just naturally brilliant, who are genius, they have these ruminating thoughts and they think that it's just coming from them. But a lot of times, those downloads can be coming from the divine, and being able to pay attention to those things. That's really, really important, especially if we want to start businesses and new things. Even, people have started things and you've never heard of them before. And then all of a sudden, now we're all drinking bottled water. When I was a child, there was no bottled water. What? For what? Like, it seemed absurd, right? But now it's so commonplace. So there's tons of ways that you can get downloads, but dreams is just one of them.
Right. And yeah, Pamela, what do you think?
Well, I think it can happen both ways. I think that you can, as I agree with Shai about the downloads, and it will come in a dream. But I know that I think it was Albert Einstein, and I could be wrong about this. He used to hold two metal balls. It's like if he couldn't figure something out, and he'd think about it, and he'd take a nap, and then, you know, as when he was like really into deep sleep, his hand would open up and the ball would drop and wake him up, and then he would get an answer. So I think that you can get a download, but you can also ask too. And I agree, we all have our special gifts we need to bring into the world.
Yeah, I think I have downloads every night, but I wake up and forget them. Right. So
they build on top of one another, though. Eventually, you'll be like, "Oh, you're not supposed to," you know. It's not.
Yeah, Robert, what do you think?
Well, I think I've noticed in my life that if you have big questions and you're thinking about them and putting a lot of energy and thought energy into them, that it doesn't surprise me when you have a big dream that kind of answers the big questions. And so kind of your own focus and intent, especially when it's pure, and it seems like people like Nikola Tesla really had a purity of intent. They just really wanted to understand energy and all that and harness it for good. When you have that pure intent, then it seems to like a magnetic kind of force. That information is attracted to you just naturally and comes, like Shai says, and kind of downloads, you know, at strange times, like when you're driving down the road or just sitting there on a Sunday afternoon thinking about things.
Yeah, you can't say that like to the judge when you've crashed your car, right? And you say, yeah, how did that happen? Well, I was getting a download at the time. I had to make a note.
I can focus on two things at once.
Yeah. But is it, I mean, Pamela, just going back to what you said, you said it doesn't have to be at nighttime when you're having so much of a dream. I mean, we didn't touch on it. I mean, as I said, we could talk all day. We didn't talk about daydreaming. Right. But you said, yeah, you can invoke something, so you can ask during the day, right, for these messages, and maybe ask during the day, and they would come out in a dream.
Excuse me.
Is that what you alluded to?
You can sit and meditate and ask for an answer. You know, you could even I pray, okay, and I consider it talking to higher source or whatever goddess, whatever I choose to call it. But I can ask, you know, what do I need to do about this? And sometimes help, you know, that's the biggest prayer. And answers will come to me, you know. Sometimes it's a feeling. Sometimes I'll get a flash of something, maybe hear a song or a voice, you know, or sometimes I'm not getting any answer and somebody will call, or I'll go on the internet and, you know, something will appear, or watch a TV show. You know, it doesn't always happen right away. Sometimes it does, you know. So that's how I do it.
Yeah. So I absolutely love this conversation. And I've got 101 more questions, but there's this kind of stop it there. We can always do another one. And yeah, I think it's great now that we've connected and you've met each other as well. So hopefully we can do more of these. So just before we kind of wrap up, I just want to go around to each one of you, just share a bit more about what you do, kind of your expertise, how you deliver it, what are the services or the packages or whatever you offer. Is it one-to-one? Is it groups? Is it online, face-to-face, a combination? And then we will share all of the notes and the links in the notes afterwards. So they'll be available on the YouTube channel and Spotify for the audio recording of this. So let's just, since Pamela, you're already speaking or were, let's just go with you, Pamela, to start with.
Okay, yeah, put me on the spot first. Okay. I do, obviously I do dream interpretations, and I do it with a spiritual twist. I also have psychic abilities, and I offer different things. I have, for the people who like to do it themselves, I have books, and I have oracle cards, and I also have meditations and one online, it's an audio course. I also offer email services, whether that's dream interpretation or psychic readings. And I do one-on-one, and I have single services sessions, and coaching. And I am starting up, and I have a wait list right now. It's called the Going Within Circle. And my plans are, and talk about being directed. I'm being directed to teach more, so that will come in the future.
Excellent. And these can be done remotely? I mean, online?
Well, obviously I do the emails. I type it to you, and depending upon where you live, I can do it on the phone or Zoom sessions. And the Going Within Circle will be at a certain time, Sunday, every month.
Online.
Through Zoom.
All right. Okay. Excellent. All right. So it could be anyone in the world that can participate.
Yeah, I'm making it Sunday at 11 a.m.
Oh, you're frozen.
So I can get as many people as possible. Okay. And except for Australia, which will be like 1 o'clock in the morning, but I'm trying to, get everybody as much as possible.
Excellent. Right. So we'll share all the links, and then we'll put those in the notes after. Right. So Shai.
Yes. So I have a spiritual self-care brand, and it's called Quantum Gems. And through Quantum Gems, I match the energy of crystals with the energy of people, spaces, pets. So I've worked on Hollywood sets. I've worked with a few different musical celebrities. Basically, I am the Johnny Appleseed of crystals. I can help you to get back onto your spiritual journey, onto your spiritual path. And a lot of the tools that I sell just help take the edge off of adulting, since, like I mentioned earlier, it can be a bit much. I have one-to-one sessions, as well as I do group meditation classes. I just got a sponsorship with a local school district for the fall to be able to do meditation classes for children. But it's basically all about just having self-care as a part of your lifestyle, whether it be, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all of the above.
Excellent. And that again, that can be done globally, online.
Yes. Or one-to-one. I meet up throughout the city as well. I'm located in El Segundo, California.
All right. Excellent. And Robert.
Yeah. So I have online courses. Some of them are self-paced. You can watch the videos and do the practices at your leisure. Others of them are happening in real time, and I'll be there for, let's say, 30 days, having in-person Zoom sessions with the class, and also on the forum answering questions and sharing experiences. So you can always find that at my website, lucidadvice.com. Also, I have co-edited a free online magazine called Lucid Dreaming Experience. And there, not only can you read interesting articles and reader-submitted lucid dreams, but also normally there's a section on what I'm doing at that time and what kind of educational programs I have going on.
And you have a number of books.
Right.
I can see on your bookshelf, actually.
Yeah. So my two main books, Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self. That's my first book. It's been reprinted 15 times.
Wow.
The second book, Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple, with co-author Carolyn McCready. It's been done up 6 times at least. And then they've been translated into 8 different languages. And so that's what some of the books are, is the other language versions.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
Right. So it's been an absolute pleasure. And as I said, I've got so many more questions, but we'll park them up for another day. So yeah, with Sheila, I mean, for those that want to know about Sheila, she's a Dream Decipherer, and yeah, she will have she's part of a book that we're in collectively. I mean, as part of a featured business show that I do as well. And Robert's been a guest, Sheila's been a guest, and yeah, I've invited Pamela and Shai to be separate guests as well, so we can learn more about you and take you on a journey from your childhood. So, but this has been absolutely fantastic. It's, as I said, it's been a topic dear to my heart for many, many years. And it's nice to actually come across 4 experts that can actually share their experiences. And I think that dreaming is so important, yet completely undervalued and not focused on, not by the average person. I mean, the average person, everybody dreams. And if we could really tap into the value of that, I think we would learn so much more about ourselves as well. So on that note, I thank you once again for being fantastic guests. It's been an honor and an absolute pleasure to meet you all, although virtually. Actually, I've never met Sheila either in person. So yet we've been working together for 2 years, right? So, but anyway, hopefully one day we'll all meet up as well. So thank you once again. And I'm going to practice now when I go to bed to try and get into some lucid dreaming. And I'm going to look at my hands, and
I'm going to try that too.
I'm going to get some crystals and some dream catchers, and have the right temperature. Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Snuggle on in.
So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the weekend. And and once again, thanks for being great guests.
Thank you for having
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Matt.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Goodbye.
everybody.
Okay.
Wow, that was another featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact. If you'd like to be our next featured guest or learn how James Mofat can help you leverage on the art and power of interactive storytelling for your business, reach out and schedule a call now.